need to update. No, it's a little bit like I have to update my slide. This was a slide taken 5 years ago. I've now been in the industry about 30 years, but more of that area is now netted, and that's the situation in South Australia. We're moving very quickly into very much integrated trellis netted orchard systems. You ask 10 growers how to train a young tree and you're going to get 15 answers. So there's always a lot of discussion, debate about it. We have a grower propensity to head trees, but we also have a need to improve our young tree performance, and we're changing varieties at the moment very quickly. So we really want to maximise our performance under these nets. So we're trying to get from the top slide to the bottom slide. Bottom slide is one's producing 100 tonnes per hectare under our environment, and it's pretty well at the magical 10,000 cubic metres of canopy per hectare. So wanted to revisit what we're doing with young trees, and I had the opportunity to do it with Aztec and Rocket. Both are vertically challenged, as I call them, but for very different reasons. And Joel Brockhoff, one of our growers, has enabled me to superimpose a trial on one of his new plantings last year. Identical setups, and it's been funded by the Lenswood Co-op itself. And this talk will focus on the Aztec Fuji. The impact of feathers on young tree performance and need to improve leader dominance are two factors in this variety. As you can see, you've got feathers from the nursery, and in this situation you can see the difference in leader circumference below and above those feathers. And in the trial we've determined there's a 40% impact on the development of those leaders from leaving the original nursery feathers. So that's been an important factor. It's a commercial block, replanted, M26 rootstock, 3.5 by 1, to be netted. It's drip irrigated, fertigated, and I've put in 6 different training strategies with all flowers removed the first year. The control was provided as trees provided by the nursery, but we removed all feathers below 800. So you've got the trees at planting, and this is the growth that we've achieved to the end of March this year in the control. We whipped 2 of the treatments and have had a similar type of growth response, but it's a very balanced response, good leader dominance and well-feathered development on the sides. 2 of the treatments have been grown this way. One of them I will be removing all those, stubbing the feathers back this year, so that we end up having branches that are 2 years younger than the actual leader, to keep that leader dominance and balance growth. We also headed the trees, and all were headed at 900 at planting, and you can see the growth there. As you'd expect, we had to redevelop a leader, and we've got some basal tiers branches there. Again, one of these will be whipped back again this year. And we've got a grower's option, which is one of the common practices used in the district, where the trees are headed at planting as per one of the treatments, and as soon as we've got a leader developed, all of the other basal limbs are removed to just focus on the development of that leader. So you can see there's no side branches there at the moment. yeah, that's explaining what we did there with the grower's option. We're going to have a look at some of the baseline measurements we've made so far. It's very early in the trial, but this was the baseline, so you can see we've done the measurements on the trees for comparison, and there's very little difference between the trees we used. They were very consistent trees. And this is what we've come up with so far. The trees were still actively growing when I started measuring, so I haven't done all of the measurements. But wherever we've headed, we've certainly had well, I won't say significant because I haven't statistically analysed the trees, but there's certainly a visual reduction in the size of the leaders, with the most obvious one down here with the grower option at this stage. Tree height, again, the heading process has delayed or reduced the height of the trees, and we've got a reduction in the number of feathers per tree. But this is the one that is most worrying, particularly with the use of Fuji, where we've got less feathers, but most of them are concentrated right together at the base of the tree. And that's one of the problems we've had with Fujis previously, is that people have left too many feathers too low and it's strangled trees. When we look at the retained nursery feathers versus no feathers, we've got a difference in tree height, a bit of a difference in the circumference at 800 millimetres, and I just selected 1250 for the top of the feathering zone. But you can see there's a large difference there in the feathers there versus non-feathers. But if we look at trunk cross-sectional area, where we've retained those feathers, there's a 64% difference in the trunk cross-sectional area difference between the leaders and the leaders and the feathers. So it's a major impact on the trees. So, headed versus unheaded, which tree do you want for a high density system where you're looking for uniformity of canopy, etc.? I'm certainly leaning towards the unheaded trees. Thank you.